Well, welcome everybody. I hope everyone joining us today is having a wonderful Friday morning. My name is Drew Bush, and I'm the Director of Programs at the Fairbanks Museum and Planetarium. And we're excited to have you with us this morning for our at-home science for preschool with Carolyn Guest, who I'll introduce in just a minute here. I know some of you are joining us in our Zoom meeting. Some of you are joining us on YouTube Live. And a few of you may even be joining us after this class takes place on Kingdom Access Television or your local cable station. We welcome you today, and we're excited to have you with us. And please, of course, check out our website, fairbanksmuseum.org. You'll see a banner at the top that will take you to all of our online learning opportunities. For those of you in Zoom, I just quickly want to point out that at the bottom of your screen, if you move your cursor, you will see a Q&A button. In there, you can pose questions today for Carolyn, and I will relay them to her. We'll do our best to answer them all today live if we can. If we get a lot of questions, we may answer a few in written form, so make sure you check back in that box and look for your written answer. And in case you might be concerned, you can also pose your questions anonymously in that box as well. For those of you just looking to answer maybe questions that Carolyn will ask or to chat with us, you can also see to the right of that button at the bottom of your screen that there's a chat button as well. And we'll definitely be on there too, and we welcome you to chat with us during today's class. For those of you on YouTube or joining us on cable access television, please feel free to email your questions to us, dbush@fairbanksmuseum.org. We'll be holding this class every Friday at 9:05 a.m. And we would love to be able to include your thoughts and ideas, or even just adjust what we do to improve based on the feedback you send us. One note before we get started, today's class is going to be recorded and archived on our website. So please be aware that if you choose to interact with us, it might be a part of that video, and just be careful in what you say, I guess. And without further ado, I will turn it over to Carolyn Guest for today's lesson for preschool.
Good morning. Welcome to Kitchen Science, Friday's Kitchen Science. This morning, we're going to be looking at the concept or the question of, can I make a shell disappear from an egg? Tell me more about eggs. How can I use eggs besides for cooking and eating? Well, first, we're going to look at eggs to see what we know about them and look at a little bit of what we have for samples. Now, going through my collections for egg shells that I've blown the contents out of in the past, most of them are already decorated, but I do have some examples of different size egg shells. They're all in the oval shape, like this great big goose egg. You can see where I've made holes in the top and the bottom to blow out the contents, to wash it out, to save that for a different use later. This little brown shell, I believe, was a guinea hen. It's speckled. I didn't have to color the shell at all. Just a nice medium size. It was wider on one side than the other. It's been decorated. It also took a big fall, but you can see that the contents are missing, and how that we opened the top and bottom to remove the egg from the inside. Here's one that I did not dye or change the color, but it's blue. So again, they come in different shapes and sizes. This one is actually quite round. It's still oval, but it's quite a round egg. And then there's this little pullet egg. A pullet is a young hen, and it's probably one of the first eggs that she laid that I've decorated with paper. So those are, it's a little bit about shape and colors, because as you can see, they come in lots of different colors and sizes. Well, one of the first things I wanted to know about eggs was, I know when I empty them, they're going to keep for a long time. But in my kitchen, when I'm using them for cooking, how can I tell if the egg is a fresh egg or an older egg? So what I've done is I have set up a bowl of water. And this is something that, having grown up on our farm, we did as children. When we found eggs up in the hay mow, my mother would say, okay, let's put it in the bowl to see if it sinks or if it floats. An egg that has the yolk and the white in it and is fairly fresh, the shell, that hard shell, has a membrane on the inside, and air can go through the shell. And if it's fresh, it's just going to lay there in the bottom of the bowl. It doesn't, that air pocket that's inside the shell has not gotten any larger. Let's try a couple more and see what happens. Let's try this white one right here. This, again, these are eggs that I bought at my local grocery store. It's wavering. It's not quite as fresh as that brown one, but it's still laying kind of flat. Let's try another one. How about this one? What do you think? It's wavering a little bit more, so it's a little bit older. So there's an air pocket or membrane inside, and as air goes in through the shell, that pocket gets bigger and bigger. And the bigger that air pocket is, the more your egg will float. One last one to try. This one's really, is this one trying to stand up a little bit more? So it's a little bit older. Now, if it were floating on top of the water, I'd put it in my compost. I wouldn't even try to open it. It would not be a pretty picture. It would really stink if you opened up one that was floating. So that's the first thing that we're going to look at. Now, the second question we're going to look at today is, can you make this hard shell on this egg disappear? I don't know if you can hear that. Pretty hard. And to open an egg, you really have to give it a hard tap. I'm going to get rid of my bowl of water. I'm going to take another household favorite product, vinegar, and I'm going to put some in a jar. And vinegar is an acid. It's I wonder what it will do with that shell on the egg. And remember, the eggshell is made of calcium and minerals. Now I'm going to put it in the vinegar. I'm going to set it down in there nice and gently. And let's watch to see what it does when it first goes in the vinegar. Oh, look at those bubbles that are starting. It's putting off a lot of little bubbles. I wonder what's happening. You can see the shell is just collecting those bubbles. Something is happening in that vinegar and egg solution. One of the things that we'll be doing as scientists in our home kitchen lab is we'll be asking questions using everyday materials and equipment and doing some different experiments like this. Well, let's come back and look at this to see what it would look like in a couple of minutes. Something's happening to the calcium and minerals in that egg. We're going to look at that again in another minute. I may put together one of these that I put the vinegar on 2 days ago. Let's see what that one looks like. Again, I started with a white egg and I put it in with vinegar just like I did the first one. Now it's been 2 days. What do you notice it's different about this? You see the foamy material on the top. And I'm going to put on, I'm going to get a dish to set this in, and I'm going to put on a glove just because eggs that have sat in vinegar for a while have a very distinct odor, and my hands will smell like that for a long time. But I'm going to scoop this egg out that we've had. I started with an egg that was this size, and look at it. It is swollen up. Make sure I drain off my extra vinegar, and I'm going to set it in this bowl.
So we do have one question, Carolyn.
Yes.
So one person's asking, what was that liquid in the jar before the vinegar was added?
Just vinegar. Thank you. That's a good clarification. I had already started to fill up the jar.
So there was no other liquid in there beforehand?
No, I added vinegar to vinegar. So when you look at the egg, remember how that we had that shell on it before? Watch what happens when I move it with my finger. Can you see? I'm going to actually pick it up. I'm taking off the last of the shell. And there's no shell left on here. It's soft. You see it bounces? That yolk color is the predominant color. Isn't that the coolest thing? If I drop it in the bowl, I wonder what will happen. Ready to get this one? It bounced just like a rubber ball. I'll try it from higher. Ready? It's staying together. It's not breaking. But when I bounced it, I could see the yolk was moving some. Let's try that one more time. So that yolk is, so it's bouncing away in there. It started out with that hard shell. We put it in vinegar, and this was 2 days. The shell is gone. And now it's just this rubbery ball. I'm going to set this over here. What do you think it looks like if we had left it for a whole week? Let's check it out. Okay, this was a brown egg. I didn't have any white eggs when I started this project. So instead of looking like this, it looks like this when I put it in. So this was what it looked like a week ago. Can you hear this? That hard tap, that shell is what it was like when I put it in a week ago. Now I'm going to take my spoon, and I have this brown gelatinous mess on top. And here is my brown egg. Look at that. Again, there's the remainder of the shell. I'm going to set it in there because it's ready to slide off. Oh, look at that. I can just take the dissolved shell and wipe it right off.
So one question that somebody emailed me, Carolyn,
Yes.
person just wondering, does it matter, or how long were these eggs in the fridge beforehand, or did they come straight from the grocery?
Well, the eggs came straight from the grocery. I had the brown ones were from a local farm. The white ones came from my local grocery store. I picked up the white ones on Tuesday. No, I picked them up on Wednesday, and I put the first one that we had here, the white one, in on Tuesday. Now, when I feel it, it's pretty bouncy, and you can see I can wiggle it around some. That's showing up. But when the one from last week, about the same. Now, I remember one time with a group of children, we opened up one of these, and it had been in the vinegar for a couple of weeks, and it was pretty much solid all the way through, almost like a boiled egg, but clear, and the yolk was like a boiled egg. At this stage, it'd be fun to open it up if I were outdoors, but not in my kitchen.
So one follow-up question from the person on email. Can you refrigerate them while soaking them in vinegar as well? So similar.
I bet you could. Have you ever heard of pickling an egg? Pickled eggs are something that we boil the egg and then we put it in vinegar with spices, and then we can, eat the eggs later. But pickling or putting eggs in brine has been a way to preserve them for many, many years. All right, any more questions about working with vinegar and eggs?
Yeah, feel free to ask them in our Q&A if you're in the Zoom, or if you're on our YouTube live stream, you can email them to me at dbush@fairbanksmuseum.org. Or if you're maybe watching this later on Kingdom Access Television, you can email me questions that you have or topics that you're interested in for a future class.
I have one clarifying question.
Yes.
Carolyn, you're using white vinegar, not a cider vinegar or anything fancy, correct? Straight, plain white vinegar.
Just inexpensive white vinegar. It would be fun to try it with other vinegars if you have plenty of it. Would you want to look back and see what the egg looks like that we put in this morning to see what it's doing? Remember how it was putting out lots and lots of bubbles at the beginning? It's still putting out some bubbles, but it's making, look at what those bubbles are putting on top of the vinegar. They're collecting minerals from the shell. So it's like there's little particles all throughout the vinegar now, and it's only been in there, what, 5-10 minutes? So it happens pretty quickly.
So we have a question, Carolyn, from Tara.
Sure.
Why does the vinegar not make the egg break? Why wouldn't the egg just break with the vinegar?
That's a good question, and that's one I need to ask more questions about myself. I think it appears to be pickling the egg. The albumin part of the egg, the white part, is predominantly protein, and it cooks at a very low temperature or in an acidic environment, sort of like when you use salt, or you can use vinegar to cook or pickle something.
It would be similar to making ceviche, where you cook fish in lime juice.
Yes, exactly.
So the acid essentially cooks the protein.
Correct. So that your albumin, or the white part of the egg, is going to solidify more quickly than the yolk, which has a lot more fat in it. And that's why one of the fun things to do with this is an outside follow-up, is to open it up and look at the different textures that it creates while cooking in the vinegar. So that's another concept of cooking in the vinegar. I'm going to get rid of this glove, and we're going to move from taking the shell off to looking at ways to color the shell on eggs. You saw some of the eggs that I had decorated with paper, but another way that we like to use eggshells is to color them. And it's for centuries, people have been using natural materials to create a color bath or a dye, and use that to dye fabric and eggs and different mediums. And as we said, the eggshell is calcium. So we're going to turn over to my other side of my kitchen and look at some of the things that I collected on a recent walk. I got some cedar, and I broke it all up into little pieces, I collected lichens and moss, staghorn, sumac, a whole bunch of different things. And each one I cooked up with some water. And one of my favorite ones I had in my kitchen was onion skins. So when I cooked my onion skins, this is the color that I came out with for my dye bath. For the lichen, you get this very light, murky color. The moss was fun. The moss gave this reddish brown color. Now, when it came time for the sumac, I didn't have a large quantity, so I threw in an old bag of cranberries, and I probably would have been better off just doing the sumac. It came out pretty cloudy from the cranberry sumac collection. I was peeling carrots the other day, so I saved all the carrot peels and got this light yellowish orangey color. And then I had discovered alder, and alder made a really pretty light amberish color. And cedar was the one that I had shown you. Cedar was another one that came out in a interesting color. Can you see that? Like, yeah, it's sort of sagey, grayish green. So each of these I boiled my natural material with some water, and the sumac, they say, is very acidic. The alder is acidic. So I didn't add any vinegar to those. Sometimes if you add a little vinegar to a dye bath, the color will take better. But one of the things I discovered with eggs is if you add too much vinegar, it eats the shell. So you don't get as good a color. So here are the results of putting those eggs in those colors. You notice that they have a shine on them. After that you've dyed your egg, rub a little oil on them and it makes them nice and shiny. So it's not that, as this one here is still hasn't had an oil on it. These eggs were all boiled first. I know with the onion skins, the coffee, turmeric, staghorn, sumac, cedar, I would feel very comfortable eating the egg that's inside, that's a boiled egg with those. And let's take a guess on which ones are which. Rick's going to back up a little bit. Now, the one that came out with the darkest reddish brown color is, what do you think? Any suggestions on which of those would make that wonderful rich color? It could have been the moss, or the onion. It was the onion. Onions, and that's yellow onion skins, really make a beautiful color, depending on how long you leave the egg in the dye. And the nice thing too about these dyes is you can make your dye, let it cool down, put your boiled eggs in, and then take, set them in the refrigerator overnight for a darker color without having to, and children can help with doing the cold dyes versus having to use boiling products. But that's the onion skin. This one, it has this greenish brown color. This one I had put a little vinegar in, and look at how it molted the shell turned out. This came from the lichen. And the lichen is that light green one right there. So this came from this jar here. And I'll show you a couple of fun other ones real quickly. This one was the cranberry and sumac. And again, the acid in the fruit molted the shell a little bit, but it gave a really pretty color. I'm going to show you a couple more and then open one up and answer any questions. This one is turmeric. I was kind of disappointed because I've seen some that come out with a really dark yellow. I'm thinking I need either some cream of tartar or vinegar in with the turmeric to make this darker color. This was a last minute fun one. Carrots. The orange skin of the carrot boiled down and came out with this sort of greenish color. Another one I didn't do that's fun to work with is beets and red cabbage. And red cabbage is a fun surprise. This one was one of my favorite ones. This is from the moss. So the moss had this brownish dark tea color. Tea would work also in different teas. If you have a can of canned beets, save the juice to put your boiled egg in to dye your eggs blue, red rather. And this is the coffee. And remember, with the these were all white eggs to begin with. Again, I think the coffee needs either a vinegar or cream of tartar, changing the acidity level or the lack of acidity to get some more color on it. Would you like to open one up? Let's do that. Let's bring it over here. I can grab a tool to tap it with. And actually, Rick, I'm going to grab onion skin one as well. Okay, we're back here. Okay, ready, Rick? So we're going to open the egg up. So the egg was cooked in the onion skin. You can see right here where that air pocket is on the inside of the egg. And the yolk and the white part, the albumin. And I want to see if there, that air pocket really shows up well on this egg. There's some color transfer, but not a lot. But it was cooked in onion skin, so it's perfectly edible. Oh, and there's the color that's come through the shell. Drew, how are we doing on time?
Yeah, so we're a little bit over on our time, so we're just about done. We did have one question for you.
Sure.
And one person was wondering, was dried turmeric or fresh root turmeric used? So was it dried?
I used the dried. I bet the fresh would even work better.
Yeah, great. And I don't know if you have any last words or the assignment for the week for everybody, Carolyn, and then we'll wrap up today.
Okay. I think the assignment is to have fun playing with different things to find out what kind of dyes that you can make and things that will change the color. As one way to do eggs, I'll open one last, you can stay there, egg carton. And then if you turn, Rick,
And I have one
These are eggs that were dyed with egg dyes and decorated in different ways. But I mean, once you dye them, you can cut out paper and glue them on. You can do all sorts of things with them. But
oh, those are very pretty, Carolyn. And one question, all of the dyes that you showed us today, were those found just walking around outside your house, or were they, did you have to go further afield to find them?
I just went down in the swamp behind the house, down in the woods. And Rick, one focus on me. And so they were just, and then things around the house. And like I said, you could use cabbage or leftover, try out with your scrap from your vegetable preparation for cooking to find out what color. Think about what colors you get when you're cooking vegetables in the water, and then would they change an eggshell? So that's, I guess, is the big thought process for today, is just the concept of how porous those eggshells are, how the air goes through, and the things that will change an eggshell.
Well, thank you, Carolyn. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
That was really wonderful. And
thank you.
I just wanted to welcome everybody who joined us this morning again. Everybody who is on our YouTube live stream, everybody who is in our Zoom meeting right now, and anybody who may view this later on Kingdom Access Television, we welcome you to join us again for an upcoming class. And you can go to fairbanksmuseum.org and find all of our virtual offerings there. And I just wanted to give a warm thank you to Carolyn, who, as I should have said at the outset, is our Balch Nature School director at the museum. You may have also heard the voice of Libre Drouin, who is our assistant teacher at the Balch Nature School also. So thank you again, everybody, for joining us, and I hope you have a wonderful day.